The other big thing today is to remember that all over the world, Christians and Jews alike are getting ready to celebrate the feast of Passover and the feast of Easter. And we are celebrating Passover too, and the feast of Easter in our wonderful metaphysical way. We're passing over up and out of all of our negations and toxicities and so on, and we're moving into the light of a risen and rising consciousness that supports and helps us and assists us, and that's what we're moving through too, alongside of all of our friends and neighbors. We are also celebrating the fact that each and every one of us here is invited to, who are members, of course, we must be members, signed up members, to our annual meeting after this particular get-together. And so I'm looking forward to that, and us all enjoying what we've done in the year and what our goals and visions are for the future. And with regard to a quick little lesson on Palm Sunday, here's what I learn every single Palm Sunday of my life, and it's this: never take praise too seriously, and never take criticism too personally, because those that are shouting and bawling and screaming Hosanna on Sunday will be screaming crucify her on Friday. So you don't take the praise too seriously, and you don't take the criticism too personally. And let me tell you, if you can manage to do that, your head will thank you, your stomach will thank you, and everybody around you will thank you too. So that's Palm Sunday. So believe it or not, as we move through our book on Eric Butterworth's Life is for Living, the chapter that came up for today is the chapter wherein he's announcing very loudly that here we must not buy into ageism and all that it entails, because if we do, we will be the worst for it, not the better. That we do not buy into ageism, and it's very strong and very prevalent in our land. And I'm not just talking about when you get to a certain number in age, but from the time we come in. And by the time we're in high school, we're already in that mindset, I'm this age, and now I'm ready to go out into life and living, or college, and gee, I wonder if I'm going to be able for it, and what's going to be like to be on your own and standing on your own 2 feet and so on, and there's that concern around that. Then you leave college and you go out into the big wide world, and you wonder, oh my gosh, am I ready for this yet? Then you get the job and you think, wow, will I be able to do this, and will I be able to do it well? And then you get married and you're saying, oh my gosh, am I able to take care of a family, and where's that going to all go, and how will that turn out? And then you come up to a certain age and you're thinking about retirement, and you're thinking, oh gosh, do I have enough money to retire? I wonder, and what will that be like? And then you retire and you're thinking, oh my gosh, will I have enough money until the end of my days, or will it run out before I do? And so we block ourselves into these time slots, and one is always ahead of us. One is always ahead of us. From the time we come in, there's this age block ahead of us. When I was a kid, at the age of 7, you were going to come to the use of reason. You would be in full use of reason by the age of 7, and consequently you couldn't do this horrible thing, or wonderful thing, whatever way you thought about, of making your first confession. Oh, isn't that lovely to look forward to? Telling every sin you've ever committed in your entire life. Oh yeah, that's a joy. And everybody telling your first Holy Communion, it's just such a beautiful experience. Oh yeah, but before that there's your first confession. That's not so hotsy-totsy. And so you're kind of a little bit, angst by the time you get to fall into that dark confessional box and scream at some ear somewhere and so on. And that begins it. There's the process beginning. At 7 years of age, you have the full use of reason, and after that, you are held very high in responsibility with regard to your conduct and so on. And it's like the comedian that once said, why did my parents tell me that the week before I made my first Holy Communion and reached the use of reason, I could have kicked up a storm and committed all the sins I liked then, and then I would have at least had that much freedom in my life. But oh no, they told me the week of my first Holy Communion. And so this is it, this chronological thing called time, this thing around which we are under the tyranny of clocks and calendars and birthday books. And it doesn't bode very well on us, according to Mr. Eric Butterworth, Dr. Eric Butterworth. And I can see where he's saying, can you imagine this modern world without clocks, without calendars, and without birthday books? He said if we could, and we could live that even for a day, we would be the better for it. Before children even start school, they're scheduled. I never in my entire life when I was growing up free as a bird in Ireland thought that the day would come when playtime would be scheduled for children and that children would have playtime and you had to book it in and your parents had to take you there to these people whom you were going to play with and so on. Play was play for us. We were out and about. As soon as we came home from school, did your homework, you were as free as a bird. You were out there playing, doing whatever you want, getting up to whatever you wanted to, and it was wonderful. Now children are as scheduled as their parents are, 7 days a week. Little League on Saturday and Sunday and so on and so forth. And where is their creative time? Where is their personal time? Where is their time to have a sense and sensibility about themselves? To dream, to imagine, to daydream. I used to love to daydream when I was a kid. Loved it. No time anymore for anything except to keep up with the clock, keep up with the calendar, keep up with the pace, the beat, and so on, because it's supposedly good for you. Well, I don't know. I never had any extracurricular activity when I was in school. I never had any great engagements at the weekend or any of that and so on when I was in school. I had lots of playtime, and I don't think I'm any the worst for that, to tell you the truth. Now, the only thing was when we got to secondary school, yes, we had to do 5.5 days work. We went to school half day on Saturday, and in your senior year, you had a whole day on Saturday of school. So you had 6 days of school, and that was it. But when you were finished, you were finished. So we have to look at our lives and see what kind of a merry-go-round are we on. And if we're on the merry-go-round, are we enjoying it? Is it good for us? Or do we sometimes get thrown off it and hurt ourselves and then have to get back up again in a hurt fashion and keep going until we're thrown off again and hurt ourselves and have that reoccurring? So he starts off the whole chapter on page 145 with the story of an 80-year-old man called Joseph MacDonald. Now, Joseph MacDonald was a very energetic, dynamic, youthful person, and he was strong in his career at 80 years of age, and he was such an inspiration to everybody who worked alongside him, especially the young people. And they didn't call him Pops, and they didn't call him the old man, and they didn't call him Uncle Joe. None of that, because he was as youthful and more youthful than they were, and they could see that and sense that. And nobody said anything, it just didn't happen. So one day a young chap called him aside and said, "You know what, Joseph," he said, "I wonder if I could ask you a personal question." He said, "Okay," he said, "what is it?" He said, "How old are you?" And he paused for a moment, he looked at the young man and smiled and he said, "You know what? My age is none of my business." And that was the end of the conversation. And the man went on and continued a happy and normal life, all the time working for all the days of his life, always having future plans, always in a progressive mode, and always looking forward to. And I love that story, because that could be your story, it could be my story too. You see, ageism is something, if we buy into it, and we do, if we buy into it, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Somebody's growing rich out there from it, you know. If we buy into it, what it does is it whittles away at us and it depletes us of our faith in life. It depletes us of our will in life. It depletes and takes from us our desire and our commitment to constantly and continuously progress in life. It slows us down because it's written into ageism. When you get to a certain age, you slow down. That's the greatest load of baloney I've ever heard, because I know many, many people who are way up there as far as numbers are concerned, and they haven't slowed down at all. Not at all. And so I love, he mentions the story too about the chap that visited long, long ago in a faraway place called the land of the never-setting sun. He traveled to this land, and what did he find there? He found that there were no clocks, there were no calendars, there were no birthdays, there were no seasons. It was the land of eternal sun. And because it was always day, and it always had the energy of day, people were managed to discover the secret of eternal youth. And because they were always in the light, the shadows never bothered them. And that's how it happened, as the story goes. And there is, it's a proverb. There's a lesson in there for us all. I mean, where do we spend most of our days? In the light or in the darkness? In the day or in the night of life? Where are we with our journey? And the questions that arise from this particular study this week in the book is to ask ourselves, well, how am I in my life and living? Do I fit the picture with regard to ageism? Is that my profile? Is that where I am? Is that how I'm journeying on? According to this thing called ageism. And he tells another story of a lady who was an elderly doctor in the Midwest. And she was asked the question, how did you manage to do this? What is the key to your, growing old is what they use, growing old with such grace and such wisdom and so on. And she looked at them and she says, growing old? I don't grow old. And the reason why I don't grow old is I am always growing. And if you're always growing, you don't grow old. However, if you stop growing, you age and you become old. That's the key for me. And I love that idea. I really admire that sense and sensibility that this lady had. There are numerous stories. These people who don't grow old are all around us. They're all around us for those who have eyes to see. Oliver Wendell Holmes said, oh, the delight, he said, in reaching, he said, 70 years young. How cheerful that is, rather than being 40 years old. 70 years young as opposed to 40 years old. And that's the sense and sensibility that we need to develop, and especially at a very young age. Especially, you young people here today have this wonderful opportunity to not let all that stuff mess up your minds and to stay in that dynamic and that energetic, that life is good, life is very good. It's to be lived out loud, it's to be celebrated, no matter what, because we can. And for the rest of us, it's never too late anyway to be in the childhood you always wanted. And to stay in childhood is a very, very good thing. I didn't say childishness. I said to stay in childhood is a very good thing. We're all expert at the childishness stuff. We're not so expert at the childhood way of being. And that's what we need to keep. Our sense of curiosity, our sense of wonder, our sense of awe, our sense of delight, our sense of adventure, our sense of what's the next thing? What's the next thing, you see? Because that's what keeps us young and vital. Like the elderly gentleman who was 80 years of age again, he goes in to give his blood, right? And they say to him, oh, I don't think this time, I think it's maybe not a good thing for you to give blood this from now on in. And he said, well, why? He said, well, your blood is not just that vital anymore. And he looked at them and he said, are you kidding me? He said, you know what? The blood that's in my body is the same as the blood in your body. It's as vital as any one of you, your blood streams. And he said, it may be in an old container, but it is very vital and young. So take the blood. And they did. And they did. And I love that kind of attitude. I love it. Don't you love it when you see that in people? It doesn't matter what their age are, when they're vivacious and they're vital and they're dynamic and they have an energetic about them. It's a very attractive thing. That's a very attractive thing. And then there was another big party where one young man was fascinated by a very charming and poised Indian lady. And he just couldn't get over the radiance about her, the poise about her, the beauty about her, the gracefulness of her. And so he picked up the courage and he went over and he said, Madam, he said, I just have to share with you, I think you're absolutely stunningly beautiful. And she smiled at him and she said, well, I ought to be. I'm over 75 years of age. So, you know, for her, that was normal. This is what happens when you mature. You become beautiful and poised and lovely and all the rest of it. I mean, what do we think about ourselves when we look into the mirror? Are we thinking, I'm aging beautifully, I'm becoming poised, I'm becoming gorgeous, I mean, really? And so on. No, we do not. We're going, oh my God, is that another line? Oh, this blooming magnifying glass, I'm not looking in that anymore. That's where we are. That's where we are. And we wonder why our body is not in line with supporting us, because we get up of a day and we say, oh, this knee is killing me. This darn knee. Well, when that happens, here's what I do. Oh, beautiful knee. Oh, lovely knee. Oh, great knee. There's not a bother on you, knee. There really isn't. And I'm going to assist and support you today to be all that you can be. And I'm so sorry for messing you up and getting in your way and having these rotten thoughts about my knee so that it doesn't allow you to be the great, good, gorgeous, wonderful knee that you can be. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, knee. It's true. Oh, lovely liver, oh, liver, my love, what a lovely liver you are. Whatever it is, that's the attitude to have. Because let me tell you, cussing it out doesn't work, does it? No, it hasn't worked. Now, you choose this day the blessing or the curse, Scripture says. Choose. You ought to be in love with your beautiful companion, your body, and bless it, and thank it every day for doing for you what it needed to do for you. It took you here, it took you there, it saw this, it heard that, and so on. You are in awe of this thing called a wonderful body. And stop just looking at the appearance of it. But think about the incredible, awesome, amazing mechanism that it is, and the amazing intelligence it has within itself to maintain itself if we would just get out of its way. And that's how you stay young as well. We have to understand, like the woman that said, I am too alive to be old. I am too alive to age. I am too alive to be anything other than the great, good, dynamic self that I am. I was with a group of regionals this week in Boulder, Colorado. We were all sitting around and age came up. And one person asked another person their age. Well, the response was something like, I'm too alive to be old, and my age is none of my business, and consequently none of yours. And then one person said of another person, gosh, I didn't realize that she was that age. She looks so young. And then another one said, of course she looks young. We're religious scientists. We all look younger than we are. That's what the teaching can do for us if we allow it to do it through us. But is it easy? Oh my goodness, no. It's extremely hard to live this teaching and apply this teaching and to live from this teaching. Have you noticed that? It's very, 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 very hard. Muy difícil. But that's not to say it cannot be done. That's not to say that it cannot be done. It can be done. There are tons of us out there doing it. Many, many of us out there doing it and living it and being it. So if life is not a hoot and a holler, then what is it? It's supposed to be a hoot and a holler. It's supposed to be a celebration. There is no will of God anywhere that I can find where it is written that says, as you age, you shall diminish in capacity, you shall diminish in ability, you shall diminish in strength. Nowhere is that written anywhere, but it is written. You shall have life and have it in abundance. And your joy shall be complete. And you shall experience the peace that passes understanding if you get in tune and in alignment with the more of yourself and the greatness of yourself and the presence that is within yourself. that will raise you and keep you glowing and growing and expanding and going from goodness to goodness to goodness to goodness. That's what you are created to experience, because you are of source. You are of its essence. You are made in its image and in its likeness. And God's source never deteriorates in any way or ever grows old. And since that is true of spirit, I can say it's true of me. And so choose this day, my dear ones, the blessing or the curse. Choose this day, as these people, these young elders have chosen, to live in life's affirmation. And because they live in life's affirmation, they don't experience stoppage and blockage and lack and limitation. They choose to stay in the light, and the darkness doesn't bother them. Choose this day the darkness or the light. Choose this day affirmation or negation. Which is it going to be? You can't entertain both. It has to be one or the other. And negation doesn't work for us. Lack and limitation doesn't work for us. Toxicity of all of that is what does us in. And we need to stop that nonsense if we are engaging in it now. And so, like that wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady that said, I am too alive to be old. And that wonderful man that said, age is none of my business. We can go off now knowing that age is none of my business, because I am too alive to grow old. Will you do this with me today? Will you make the promise to yourself? I am too alive. Say it with me then. I am too alive to grow old. Again. I am too alive to grow old. Now say it like you mean it. I am too alive to grow old. My age is none of my business. Again. My age is none of my business. Now like you mean it. My age is none of my business. And so it is.
We invite you to experience Dr. Moira in person on Sundays. Our services are at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., and childcare is available. Please join us. If you enjoy these messages and would like to make a donation to our center, please visit our website at RedondoCSL.org. Thank you for your support of this ministry.